Hey guys, this is G17. I just want to do a short video about a neat little project that I have going on here. This is a ZevTech Glock 17 L slide made by Prime/Nova. And this slide retails for about 140 to 160 US dollars, depending on the version that you buy. They sell a version that comes with this barrel. They sell another version that comes with a dimpled barrel. The dimpled barrel is the correct ZevTech style of barrel that has dimples all over it. Which is really cool looking. I sort of wish I got that one. But this right here is the cheaper version, of course, since this is just a regular barrel. But yeah, those are the two options you have. And right off the get-go, I can tell you that the coating and finishing is actually very beautiful. Smooth to the touch, incredibly, how should I say, stealthy? I'm not entirely sure if that's the right word. But it looks very similar to something that what I've seen in Detonator, which is actually very, very cool. I didn't expect Prime and Nova to pump out something this nice. Recently, Prime and Nova has actually stepped up their stuff a little bit, so I'm quite happy there. And the markings, as you can see, are very deep and distinctive. Although, I will say that this special coating that they did on the side, it's a little bit faded on this area and a little bit faded at the front. So they probably need to work on their quality control over there. But otherwise, it's still pretty good. The side finish, I'm not entirely sure what this is called. I know in the real steel world they call it a PVD finish, but in the airsoft world, I think they use some sort of substitute finish to apply this thing. It's a very unusual finishing. For some odd reason, you can actually apply it on just one dimension on the slide. That's the reason why you can see two different kinds of coatings on the slide. I think that idea is pretty cool. I've never seen that really. Well, I have seen that, but I don't see it too often for airsoft. If you buy the Stark Arms SAI, you may be able to see that. Sometimes on a few other aftermarket slides, you might see some, but not too many. So yeah. And this very, very cool looking serrations that the ZevTech does. And the interesting thing on this side is that it actually uses a special rear iron sight that's somewhat proprietary. This is a ZevTech style sight. Look how sexy that looks. That's just bloody cool. And it slides in like a real Glock slide, where you have to actually slide it in on the side. I'll install this later on just to see how it feels like. I probably won't show you guys just because it's relatively simple. And instead of using the rear iron sight as the screw threads to hold your blowback housing unit, they give you a screw. And the threads are actually on the slide itself. That's how it actually screws in your blowback housing unit. So that's quite unique. Haven't seen this too often. I've seen this on some Japanese slides before, but I haven't never really seen it until quite recently on this. And I noticed that when you look inside here, can you see that there's an edge over here inside that area? Not 100% sure what that's for. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Maybe they're just reinforcements for all these areas because they did angle cuts over here and they needed this structure. Maybe that's the reason why they did that. Not 100% sure. Anyways, I thought that edge area was quite interesting. And like usual, the front two corners over here, there is a slight bump over there. Can you actually see right at the very corner? There's a slight rise over there. I'm anticipating that whenever I install my blowback housing unit, it might hit that. So I'll figure that out later on when I install everything. Otherwise, not much else to note. And moving on, we have a front side post with a fiber optic, very, very thin. You have to install this yourself. You also get an extractor, very common. And this is the guide rod that they provide you. This guide rod is awfully light. I haven't figured out how to use this yet, but I'm going to figure out soon anyways. I'm just going to be installing this on a stock Glock. I'm not going to upgrade it. I'm not going to tune it. I'm just going to do up the externals. It's because this Glock is purely for looks. And I can tell you right off the bat that inside here, you can see inside, notice that the internal structure for the barrel goes up to about here. So that means I think it's meant to use the original Glock 17 inner barrel. I don't think you can use a longer barrel. It's because the support structure is clearly... Yeah, there you go. That's a very good view. So can you see that smaller hole? That smaller hole is just right about here. So that basically means I don't think you're meant to use a longer inner barrel. I think you can just use a regular Glock 17 barrel and it will reach. I'll note all any fitments or any special things later on when I assemble everything. It's because I haven't even built the frame yet. I need to build the frame. So I'm testing the fitment of my Nova Glock 17L slide, and I do notice that it moves pretty much in any situation. It's because the tolerance on the 17L slide is rather loose. It has so much play that it can move left and right and up and down. Although on the rear area it moves slightly less, but it's still fairly loose in terms of tolerance. I leveled out the chassis in my guard frame. I noticed no difference whatsoever in the movement of the slide. As you can see, it moves freely, and that's just because the tolerance is just horrible. Nova might want to work on that in the future, but for now, this is just for looks, right? So you can also purchase an aftermarket chassis to fix the tolerance problem if you wish, but for now, since I'm building this only for looks, I'm just going to assemble it, and that's about it. Also, another thing I want to talk about is the outer barrel. So whenever I move the barrel like this is when your barrel is in the normal position. Whenever you rack or slide back, this is when your barrel drops like that. I noticed that when it gets out of this position, there's a bit of a kick there. There's a bit of an area where it gets stuck. So much so that it actually doesn't drop freely on its own. It should be dropping freely on its own, and it's clearly not. So I am going to shave away a bit of metal over here, just so it can drop a little bit easier. In the future, if I notice that the barrel tilt is not sufficient, or the barrel tilt is too much, I may modify that as well. But for now, this is the only part that I'm going to modify. If I modify anything else, I will note it as I move on in the video. So this is the next part I want to talk about the slide, is the rear iron sight. I recommend you install the rear iron sight with the grub screw on top. This is a 1.5mm grub screw. And after you install it, you will be lined up with this hole over here. After you line it up, then you can install your blowback housing unit. Now this is the stock Tokyo Marine blowback housing unit with the stock nozzle. It is a tight fit, but it will snap into place. As you can see, it actually snaps into place, and the fitment is fairly tight. You can take it off by hand, but it does require a bit of force, so I recommend you to be gentle. And then afterwards, take the stainless screw that the kit provides you and simply install it, just as you would normally assemble your Glock. Okay guys, Saturday morning, I pretty much stayed up all night to finish building the frame. I'll show you in a moment, but basically I just want to show you the guide rod first. So this guide rod that they provide you is very lightweight, but it doesn't have a spring capture. All you do is that you install your spring, you compress it with your hand, and you slip it into the slide. Because the front of the slide actually has is actually a narrow area, so what this basically means is that only the guide rod can enter this area. So the rest of the spring is captured, is captured by just installing it like a 1911 spring with a spring plug. It's sort of like that system, except that the spring doesn't go into the front over here. So that's how all that works. I'm probably not explaining that too well, and that is the whole entire slide assembled. Very simple to do. Yeah, nothing worth noting really. So I just recently found out that the lighting in my room is actually pretty good right in the center over here, so I'll probably be doing more reviews here. But anyways, this is the end result. Thanks to video editing, you guys probably saw the end result way before I did. But basically what I did was I prettied up the frame and installed the slide on a garter frame. So let's first talk about the slide. Slide fitment, very, very loose. Since the tolerance is absolutely horrible, there's left and right tolerance, there's up and down play, the slide will therefore move on its own. And it will also rattle a lot whenever you shake the gun. So this is really annoying. I absolutely hate this, but I come to expect this from Prime/Nova because they always make their slides very loose. This applies to their Noveski Glock 34, their Zevtech RMRs, so on and so forth. They all have loose tolerance like that, so I sort of expected that. The coolest part on this is the iron sight, in my personal opinion, and the fact that it has the dragonfly cut with the special polishing is because these things make it sort of special, in my personal opinion. Yeah, the side polishing is done very beautifully. Yeah, it's really cool actually. That's actually the only reason why I got the slide. It's just because the special coating and all that stuff, and the nicer anodizing, all the markings, the iron sights, they all sort of pretty up the Glock. So that's the reason why I opted to get one. And if you guys notice, look at how bloody long the slide is. Like, I did not know a 17L slide is supposed to be that long. Like, I knew it was longer, but I didn't know it was... Like, look at that. That's like 1.5 inches longer than a normal from the frame. Right? Very, very strange. I've never seen this before until the day I picked this up. And I am picking up another Zevtech Glock 17L slide so I can get the dimpled barrel. Because I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to get the dimpled barrel. I had to. Anyways, so let's quickly talk about the rest of the externals that I did. So this is a Ready Fighter Zevtech magwell. You can purchase this for about 250 or 260 Hong Kong dollars. That's, I don't know, 35 US dollars. This is the Ready Fighter trigger. This is the updated one. As you can see, it has the Zevtech marking, and it has no holes in this side. The only way you can install your screws is through this side. Right? So the trigger looks a little bit nicer when you look at it from the right side. And right here I have the Ready Fighter magazine release. This magazine release is supposed to be the Zevtech style. So that's pretty cool. Locks into all magazines perfectly fine. I don't see any problems. And as for the frame, this is a Garter EU frame that I stippled, of course. You saw the stippling process. This is not the correct way to stipple a Zevtech frame. Normally they add a lot more prints, and they normally don't follow a pattern. But the reason why I did this is because I actually can't copy the Zevtech pattern. Zevtech does it in a very chronological way whenever they stipple. So it's very difficult for me to copy it. This is the best I can do. And now that I look at my frame, I just noticed on camera that I cut my frame incorrectly. So I straightened out this part. I forgot to straighten out this hump. I didn't straighten it out enough. And what I basically mean is that normally you can actually straighten this whole entire area. I forgot to shave off the last hump at the lower side. But you know what? That's not that big of a deal. I can live with that. You probably won't notice it if I hold it in a distance, but you'll notice it if you're holding it. Yeah. And this is the large waffle pattern tool that I use, that I make for myself. PM me if you want one. And the last thing I did was polish the trigger guard. I do a hand polishing is because if you use a Dremel tool with a buffing tool, you may accidentally melt the plastic if you're too aggressive with it. So I got used to doing this all by hand. That's the reason why I do everything the slow way. I also do it the slow way so I can watch anime while I'm doing all this. But anyways, setting that aside, that's the whole entire build. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys like my build. Let me know what you guys think. Please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. I also have a Facebook page that you can follow me on, in which I will leave a link in the description box below. Peace, guys. Happy shooting, and thanks for watching. Happy Zevteching.